South African Police Service Management held a briefing yesterday to communicate the program of action for the South African Police Service for this year ahead. The briefing focused the reporting on the work done during the festive season, the implementation of the recommendations of the Farlam Commission, and efforts at transforming the SAPS. Well, to talk more about this, we are joined in studio by Nhleko, who is the Minister of Police, and Lieutenant General in the Ministry, Phahlane, who is also our National Acting Police Commissioner. Good to have both of you in studio. Thank you very much for being with us here on
thank you very much.
Bright and early on a Monday morning, which goes to show that once again, you know, this is a serious situation, and we need to start the year off on a very, very good note. In general, Minister, I briefly spoke about yesterday, but what were those messages you wanted to get out yesterday when we spoke about the festive season? Let's take that, for instance.
Look, during the festive season, we got quite some excellent feedback in terms of how we deployed, and in terms of the question of visibility of our police members and so on in various sort of places, particularly concentrated points of social activity and so forth. Whether we were in the malls or at the beach and so on, whenever we interacted with people, there was this gratitude about the fact that the police were quite visible and so on. And I think also the social media platform itself began to go abuzz about the question of how we were visible during the festive season. Now, we are taking lessons out of that particular experience, and the question would be for us as South African Police Service going forward, how do we sustain that, and how do we intensify, for an example, because clearly visibility is the key question insofar as the South African public.
Yeah, indeed. It certainly is visibility, but also trust, because there seems to be this perceived mistrust between the police and the public.
Correct,
and this obviously, I mean, we go back to a lot of corruption that goes on. And besides all of that is also the issue of losing the police in the line of duty. So there are a lot of difficulties that are facing the SAPS at this time and point. How much does this stop the work that the police are doing? I'm not sure if you would like to answer this question.
Well, we wanted yesterday, amongst others, to communicate a message to our members who have worked very hard to contribute towards the safety of South Africans over the festive season, but also to say to them that it is important that we do that what the Constitution demands from us, and also to encourage South Africans to actively participate in our endeavors to ensure a safe and secure environment for all people in this country. In as far as our members concerned, we obviously know that we had them being attacked from all angles, and we have resolved with the minister that it's an area that we are going to focus on to make sure that we minimize the attacks on police people and make sure that their safety is prioritized.
Corruption.
And let me just say on that score, for an example, the issue that the acting National Commissioner raised, we took a conscious decision both last year and this year as well, that we are going to intensify our programs insofar as community outreach programs are concerned. Because when we talk about the issues of image and trust relationship factors, for an example, that hinges largely on the extent of interaction between ourselves as the police service and members of the community that we serve. And we're putting quite a lot of emphasis in that area, precisely because the success insofar as policing can only be determined largely by positive relations between the police and communities that we serve. So it's quite a process, and it's quite a journey that we are undertaking. The results are not going to be immediate, and I think we appreciate that. But certainly we will derive positive results in the long run, precisely because of the emphasis that we're putting on this matter.
Minister, you spoke a lot yesterday as well about the efforts of transforming the SAPS and actually reintroducing some of the specialized units that were there before. Give us a little bit more detail on this.
I don't want to get into much detail about the question of the specialized units at this stage. It's safe to say that we have listened to various communities as and when we were, interacting and meeting up with them on the question of the reintroduction of the specialized units. There is work that we have begun undertaking, and quite in some few weeks to come, we will make the necessary sort of announcements around the question of the reintroduction of the specialized units and so forth. But essentially, I think we have had, because there has been generally wherever we have been in the more than 80 sort of community outreach programs that we have conducted last year, for an example, in each and every single one of them, there have been an outcry around the question of the reintroduction of the specialized units, and we are working on that issue.
All right, so we'll wait on that one to hear about them. But one of the issues that you spoke about a lot, Police Commissioner, was the back to basics approach, that approach of going back to where it all started and going back and just sorting things out at the root, particularly at some of these underperforming police stations that are not doing very, very well. How are you going to go about this? How is it all going to happen?
The first focus area in our back to basics approach is visible policing, to increase police visibility, to ensure that our people go back to the basics, amongst others, reintroducing foot patrols, bicycle patrols, horse patrols. It can be that the only way of patrolling the streets of our country is through vehicles. There are areas that are very accessible, and this we are driving to ensure that there is that interaction with our communities at all times, because they are very critical in the fight against crime. Secondly, the investigation of crime. We are now going back into the dockets that would have been closed either as undetected or withdrawn, to check what the real issues are, because people do not go to a police station, lodge a complaint for the sake of it being closed or only for insurance purposes. So we want to see justice being done, and where there was oversight, we will want to have such corrected.
Minister, I
Yes,
think you wanted to add something to that or not? Are you happy with
No,
that?
I'm fine with that.
There's
Thanks.
also the Detective Services Recovery Plan. Talk to me about that. What's that all about?
The Detective Services Recovery Plan is primarily focused on our investigation capability for the detective commanders to be doing what they are supposed to be doing on a day-to-day basis, that when a member is assigned a docket, they don't relegate their responsibility and leave that docket in the hands of that member and have the member taking decisions, while decisions on the docket are to be taken by a commander, so that where guidance is to be provided to the investigating officer is being provided to enable that case to be thoroughly investigated and be presented before courts to ensure that justice is served.
All right. Let's talk about, we spoke about corruption within the police force. We spoke about the issue of a lot of the police members being killed in the line of duty. But one thing that's a big issue is that relationship between your department and, of course, Pop Crew. And to sort that out and smooth some of the issues out there, it has voiced much unhappiness with management restructuring processes. Let's talk about this. What are we going to do to smooth this out?
It's firstly those call it misunderstandings and the issues of difference of opinions and so forth are largely founded on the basis of the nature of industrial relations practice within the police service. So I think that's the starting point. The second point is that there is an ongoing sort of engagement between management of the police service and labor around these issues, around issues of restructuring and so forth. I think General Phahlane can probably brief you at length about some of the processes in the bargaining structure that have taken place and things like that. And of course, there is this sort of a difference of opinion between ourselves and Pop Crew as things stand and so on, but there is commitment that there has got to be ongoing engagements around that very same specific sort of disagreements and so on. Yeah, but I think General Phahlane could talk to the issue of the processes at the bargaining council level around questions of restructuring and so on. Well,
the collective agreement demands from us to consult on structures, and we accordingly went to the bargaining council where both Pop Crew, SAPU and management are sitting to present the structures, which structures are, by the way, intended to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of the police. In terms of maybe the temperature being on the high side between us and Pop Crew, we are committed to engage with Pop Crew to make sure that we work together there, because they are a very critical partner in the fight against crime. And it is for us important that we find each other for the benefit of the country. What is pleasing us, though, is that the members on the ground receive the message very well, are working very hard, and it is maybe at the leadership level that who will have to find a point of convergence.
Before we wrap up the interview, I just want to talk about an incident that's happened yesterday, and something that the residents in this area, and I'm talking about the residents of Kempton Park, are claiming happens all the time. And this was an incident that's happened where we found that a Kempton Park resident says they want justice and an end to what they call ongoing police brutality against Nigerian residents. And this is after one resident says police came into their neighborhood to target them time and time again, and they want justice. And this after one resident was actually killed, beaten, suffocated to death. What is your response to this?
We're very disturbed by these kinds of developments, and we are also quite happy that the Independent Police Investigative Directorate is working, it's actually conducting an investigation specifically around this particular matter, because we also need to know certain facts about this particular incident and so on, and then act accordingly, for an example. So, but it's a very unfortunate incident that has happened. Our work as the police, for an example, is not to pass judgment on anybody. Our work is to enforce the law in such a manner that the further processing point is for any matter of transgression to be taken through a court process, for an example. So we can't, we can never, condone the question of some of our people being involved in killing others and so on. It can never be the case. In fact, that will be defeating to the entire objectives of a democratic state and so on.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thanks so much for your explanation, and also for giving us an idea of what to expect for the year ahead here in policing. Our Minister of Police, Nhleko, and our Acting National Police Commissioner, Phahlane, thank you very much for being with us here on the program.
Thank you very much.